So now God in Jesus becomes this righteous example of relationship. So not only does God embed the word righteousness with meaning, but righteousness then is also something that we do, that it is a human action. It also has to do with us conforming to what is relationally right, as defined by God, by doing what is expected in relationships, again, as defined by God. And what's neat about the word righteousness is that it is something that is worked out in a very particular way depending on what relationship you have. It's not an abstract sort of sense of just my individual piety kind of thing. It's a very practical word. So if you are a parent, you have a right way of living and interacting with your kids. If you are children, you have a right way of being in relationship with your parents. If you are a farmer or a teacher, you have a right way of interacting with those you interact with in that profession, in that role. If you're a brother or a sister, maybe if you are a king or an employer or a worker or a co-worker, if you're a citizen of a country, if you're a neighbor to someone, you have a right way of interacting with others. And so righteousness, the unique thing about it is that it actually finds its meaning in every relationship that you navigate, in each specific relationship that you navigate. It is primarily a relational word, and I would even suggest righteousness doesn't exist apart from relationship. Someone introduced me to the Japanese art form of kintsugi, which is actually the mending of broken pottery with sort of a gold compound. So there's like gold leaf in this compound that they actually put it back together. Now, the philosophy behind this art form, which is really neat, is it's a statement that the piece that was broken is actually more beautiful because it was broken. It treats the breakage and the repair of the piece as the part of the history of the object, rather than something to disguise and try to put it back together so no one can see, and rather as something that, well, it's broken, we should just get rid of it, throw it in the trash. No, it actually treats it as it's relevant to its story. The damage of these pieces is aggrandized. Like enacting maybe righteousness in relationships, it shouldn't be about looking or being perfect or hiding things that were broken. It may be about embracing the brokenness in a new way. It may be about even bringing together the pieces so that others can see how beautiful redemption and reconciliation really are. Maybe there's a witness function. Paul's statement that we are justified by faith, if we read into that, is really ultimately bound up in the larger story that in our present time, what Christ has done, this kairos moment, we have all been justified because of not our faith, but because of the faithfulness of God. So we are justified not by our faith, but by the faithfulness of Christ. And so the proper way of understanding this, I think, is not, again, by our faith, but by the faithfulness of God are we justified. It isn't about anything we do, whether it's acquiring those badges of faith or works in and of themselves, or even a simple, I just throw out my faith or belief and hope for the best. It's actually about being faithful, just like the faithful one. It's a season, I think, that can remind us of our unfaithfulness, while at the same time aiming towards understanding the faithfulness of God. It allows us to see parts of ourselves we'd rather leave covered up. But giving up, letting go, and they might be sort of trite, like chocolate or coffee or sort of those things, but it actually is a way of making space of these trite things that infest us, that take over us, making space from these things so that we can learn to be faithful, that we have time to be faithful. Sometimes maybe a purge is a good thing, right? A purge is needed to recognize that we can do with less. Sometimes space allows us to live differently. And so I think Lent, if we see it as this time where we can live into the story of our faithful God, maybe trite things are good to give up. Maybe if we have less entertainment in our lives, maybe we'll have more time to live rightly with others, practice that righteousness. Maybe if we are less self-indulgent, we give up some of those trite things in our lives. We have more ability to embrace others. Maybe if we are less narcissistic, maybe we have more energy to actually practice trusting God. And I think that's where this season leads us. By fasting from something, trite things even, we have available now space and energy and time to feast on other things, to feast on faithfulness.